All right, guys, welcome. If you're here, you've probably heard the term AI agents once or twice, but yet nobody actually explains what they really are and how they actually work. And so, whether you're a beginner or you're an experienced user, and I can say this firsthand, is that AI can be extremely daunting and can make you feel like you're always fighting this uphill treadmill. So, the goal is really to put the blinders on and to just build up brick by brick and to not really focus too much on what's happening outside of your world. And so this isn't something that you can really rush through. AI agents can, of course, be extremely powerful, but what you don't see is that most people that build these agents that are getting all this hype never end up even using them. And so that's because what most people miss is what comes before even asking the AI to do anything for you. So this isn't going to be your typical AI slop yap sesh. We're going to keep things incredibly concise. And so over the next 10 minutes, we're just going to cover what an AI agent actually is, how it works, how to get the most of them, and then at the end, I'll have a free surprise waiting. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. And so no matter what the task is, every agent goes through the same process. First, it's going to evaluate, it's going to collect all the information that's necessary to do the task, get all the tools, all the connected apps, and look at all the other inputs that you've given. And then it's going to go and think. It's going to create a plan of action to actually reach the goal. And so when you type in a command into Claude, it'll often say reasoning, and that's when it's in this thinking stage. And then after, it takes that plan and it simply executes it. So whether that's doing research, whether it's gathering files, whether it's writing words, writing code, or conducting an action. And so this cycle is going to continue to be repeated until the goal is complete. This is what we call an agent loop, where it will continue in this cycle until it eventually decides that the defined goal is completed, and then it will just deliver the result. And so here's what the problem actually is. Most people treat AI like a high IQ generalist freelancer rather than a team of specialized employees. And so the biggest difference between a freelancer and a specialist is training and instructions. So like any employee that you would have on your team, agents only work really well if you equip them with quality inputs for them to run on. So over here, you'll see that there are two types of AI use cases. So first is just a conversation, which is how almost everyone is using it. It's basically just playing ping pong. And the real way that you should be using it is having it work autonomously, where you give it a goal and then it takes everything that it has, all the resources, all the inputs, and does what it needs to do to get right to the result without you having to correct it or give it any guidance in the middle. And so what 99% of users do is that they simply have a conversation with AI. You ask it a question, it gives you an answer, then you follows up with another question, you give it an answer, another question. And so you continue this back and forth until it eventually gives you a result that you're likely not satisfied with. So you just keep giving it more information and instructions until it eventually reaches your desired result. And so this is still effective because you're completely guiding the agent, but it defeats the whole purpose of the agent itself, as you're not using it to think, you're just using it to do a task much faster than you would be able to. And so all it really does is get your work done a bit faster than you would. And so this isn't scalable because it still requires you to be present for every single little part. But really what you should be doing is giving it a very, very defined goal and all of the inputs necessary to get to that ideal final result. And so those inputs are made up of three things. And so those three things being context, skills, and tools. So first, I really just want to focus on the context. And context is broken down into two different parts. So you've got your static context and you've got your hot context. Your static context doesn't really change. It's made up of the information that you want the agent to know about you and your business. So these are things like just what you do, your ideal customer, your products and services, your partners, your vendors, your past projects, your brand positioning, your voice, your working style. And so basically anything that describes what your business is, and these aren't things that are really changing. Versus hot context is made up of concurrent things that are happening in real time. So this could be your new marketing campaign. This could be an ongoing project. This can be, clients that you're looking to land. It can be internal conversations between the team. It can be meeting notes. And so all of these, both static and hot context, need to be documented. And they're documented in the form of markdown files as opposed to a PDF or a docx, like a Google Doc. And so these can be shared through the cloud, or they can simply be stored in folders locally. And they're given to the agent to actually understand who you are in the first place. And so I want you to understand that skipping over this, it seems easy to do because it's quote unquote not necessary for the agent to go and do a task, but it will greatly diminish your output. And so it's like think about this, like a smart person to just create a marketing campaign for your business without explaining them what you actually do. You're just expecting them to be able to figure it out because they're smart. And so once we've covered context, your agent now has all the background knowledge on who you are and what your business is all about. But now it actually needs to be given instructions on how to actually do whatever task you're asking it for. And so think about skills like your SOPs. SOPs are what you would typically give to like a virtual assistant or a salesperson for them to understand how to conduct a very specific process. It's like instructions. And so let's take writing a proposal, for example. So your company obviously has a very unique way of building out your proposals. So you need to explain to the agent as if it were a legit employee. Don't make it assume anything. You have your formatting rules, you have your writing styles, you have document structure, you have your quality standards. You also have, past examples that you want to show it to support. And so once again, we need to document this and feed it to our AI agent before it even lifts a finger. And so the best part is that instead of continuing to give the same instructions every time you want to write a proposal, you now have everything saved and can just jump right into it. So as you can see over here, there are two different ways to build skills. So first off, you can just decide to build the skill first. You can intentionally go into a new Claude chat and just tell it what skill you want to create. You can just say, build me a proposal skill. And then it's going to guide you through defining what that skill actually looks like. And so this still works, but it requires upfront planning. And it's just super unnatural because rather than actually doing the work and then having it see how you go through that process, you're kind of just telling it how you would do it without actually going through the action. And so what I really think is the best way to create skills is to go the long, hard, stupid way. And first off, just do the work with Claude. So go and build a proposal, go through if you remember when I talked about the two ways that people use AI, I talked about conversation versus autonomous. And so to build your skill, you're going to use Claude in a conversation and play, this ping pong where you're just going to keep iterating and refining until you eventually get your desired result. And then once you're done, you're just going to say, build a skill for what we just did. And so this way, Claude is actually able to pick up on the entire process of how you got to the final result. And it actually sees the iterations that you made, so it understands what good versus bad looks like. And so look, now we've covered context, we've covered skills. We're already like 90% of the way there. And the final 10% is the easiest part, really. Your agent has everything it needs to perform the task. It just needs access to the tools to take them. And so through MCP or API, you'll need to connect Claude to the platforms that you use to run your business. So in the context of building your proposal, that could be Microsoft PowerPoint, or it could just be Google Slides, or it could just be a doc. But there's also Gmail, Outlook, Calendar, Notion, Slack, Teams, whatever you use for communication, and a whole lot more. And so, ladies and gents, that is all that you need to build a hyper-productive AI agent. But we're not done yet, because if you made it this far, just know that I appreciate you and I want to give you a free gift. So I don't want you to have to keep coming back to this video. And so I made a document just for you that breaks everything down in written form as well. And so if you want access, just make sure that you're subscribed and click the link down below in the description and I'll send it right over. So looking forward to the next one. And if you have any questions or you want more help, feel free to reach out and hit the like button if you enjoy it.